Enviable hotels, stunning scenery, and our first glimpse of Polish mountains are what characterise stage 2 of 7 in this year's Tour de Pologne, the Tour of Poland. Stage 1 had finished in the expected sprint finish that gave Olaf Koy yet another stage win here. That was done yesterday, and we wondered whether that would be the only bunch sprint finish of the week. That remains to be seen. There is one more opportunity this week, but we were pretty certain it would not come on stage 2 as they headed into the giant mountains, the Karkonosze Mountains, on the edge of the Sudites, for the first time, and the first real climbing test for riders too. We anticipated there being a hot effort to get into the breakaway, but actually it was arguably the easiest breakaway of the year that I've seen so far to get into. Two Polish riders going clear, one of whom was in the breakaway yesterday, Patrick Stosh, sitting 4th on general classification, going clear with his teammate, meaning two Polish riders in the breakaway, in Tomasz Budzinski and Patrick Stosh. They were there with Max Walker, the British rider for EF Education, Easy Post, and Patrick Gamper. They built up a lead in the end of around about at most 3.5 minutes once they'd gone over the first categorised climb of the day, and it started to settle in. Just out of the neutralised, we had a couple of really nasty crashes on slightly rough looking bits of road to go with the crashes we'd had yesterday on stage 1 in much more nervous moments. Well, the best climbers classification was up for grabs because Bauke Mollema had won the only points yesterday, and the intermediate sprint point at the top, actually there for that King of the Mountains point, the first one of the day, second category, was taken by Tomasz Budzinski, who'd been in the breakaway in previous editions of this race and was back in there again today. Even at that early stage, the teams of the general classification favourites getting themselves into order. There was a problem further back, though, for Patrick Stosh, the best placed rider in the breakaway. Started the day in 4th place on GC, of course, having been in the break the day before. We wondered, actually, whether he might have been sitting up, but he would come back to be with these riders, but not until they'd contested the first of the special sprints, the decathlon prize on the day. And that was taken by Patrick Gamper, the Austrian. And gradually the winding in started to happen. With 77k to go, Nicholas Behrens, the young Belgian rider for Visma Lease Bike, doing a lot of work on the front. He was their big engine for the day to go with all the work done by Stephen Kruijswijk yesterday. Of course, they had the yellow jersey in their team, so it made sense for them to be pacing. And these three continued out front, but with 47k to go, as you can see, we're down to 40 seconds. Then this happened, nasty crash that involved, 4 riders, including Bauke Mollema in that King of the Mountains jersey. Also down there was Bob Jongels, the Luxembourg time trial champion as well. Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe started paying more attention to the front, and we could see plenty of Maxim van Hils. It was an uphill finish today, so it would have suited him perfectly down to the ground. We knew that. The breakaway knew. They still only had about a minute's lead. Max Walker looked great as he rode away from Patrick Gamper and Tomasz Budzinski. And Walker persisted out front by himself. He took the next of the King of the Mountains points as well, on top of the Strednica Pass, the second time across that climb, in fact. But they would then be caught. The remains of those two leading Max Walker out there. We were starting to wonder whether Max Walker would survive deep onto the final climb, but he didn't get to have too much of that final climb. Back to Karpacz to himself. This is the point at which he was caught. UAE Team Emirates were starting to wind things up. Filippo Baroncini leading. Enzo Paleni sitting in as well. Lots of the big players ready to fire and waiting. Mateusz Wacek looked ominous at the front as well. Ineos Grenadiers keeping Victor Longelotti up in good position. Jan Christen went. He was then marked by Finn Fisher-Black of Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. Mateusz Wacek, as we came towards the line, was closing up the gap, but then went Paul Lapera, the former French road race champion for the Decathlon Agi des Elan Mondial, going over the top. Antonio Tiberi trying to go with him, but he couldn't. And Lapera showing everyone a clean pair of wheels and getting at least a couple of seconds gap. Jan Christen just fading to the line. Mateusz Wacek would take second, but Paul Lapera, what a dominant win. The first uphill finish in this year's race. Last year's uphill finishes were dominated by Thibaut Nace, and actually Paul Lapera in a very Thibaut Nace style, just kicking away from everyone, to which they had, even Mateusz Wacek, no answer. What a fantastic win. Second World Tour stage win for Paul Lapera, 6th professional victory as well. Decathlon Agi de la Mondiale have another emerging talent, despite the fact that he's been around a fair while. Paul Lapera taking the win ahead of Mateusz Wacek, and Victor Angelotti it was coming through for third, meaning Paul Lapera taking the 10-second bonus. He takes over the race lead ahead of Mateusz Wacek. Victor Angelotti going into third. Jan Christen in fourth, Antonio Tiberi in fifth, and Brandon McNulty also moving up to be in sixth as well. You will have to join us for tomorrow's stage because we are seeing it as being the Queen stage. It's even more climbing. Join us to see.